go. All right. Well, welcome and thanks for joining us today. We have a special, awesome guest, a real cool guy, Dr. Dan Thunell. And not only is he a great dentist and periodontist, but he's just a great all-around person. He's an awesome cyclist, great dad. So welcome and tell our listeners a little bit about you and how you got to where you are and what you like to do and those kind of things.
Well, I definitely love cycling. You're interrupting my cycling ride today.
Sure.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
right.
joking.
Right.
But no, so Dan Thunell grew up on the East Coast and bounced around a lot growing up, went to University of Pittsburgh for dental school, determined that I was going to be an orthodontist, and got into dental school and realized that orthodontics did not excite me at all. And discovered periodontics, fell in love with it, and decided to pursue it. Went to University of Iowa for my residency, and now I'm practicing here in Salt Lake City. I've been here almost 15 years now, which is hard to believe. Early on in my practice, I was working 1 day a week at a Monarch Dental, so a group practice environment, a DSO environment, if you will, and got to experience what that was like. And then working my own practice, building my own private practice, which I purchased right out of school. And now I work 3 days a week here at my office, and I'm teaching at the University of Utah School of Dentistry a day and a half a week. And I've been doing that for about 6 years and love it. It's a great environment, opportunity to keep my skills fresh and keep me excited about what I'm doing. I love sharing little bits of knowledge with the students, and it motivates me when I get back in my own office here. So there's a good balance there. Personally, I'm married, got half a dozen kids in school from elementary up to college. And so life is busy between cycling and working and taking care of a family. But I really enjoy what I do.
And you have an extra aerodynamic haircut right now, I noticed. So
that's right.
Makes you even adds that little edge of speed. Yeah.
Every little bit counts.
Yeah. I'm like a ride leader for my 13-year-old's mountain biking team. And last night there was one of the seventh graders. He full endoed into some trees, did a full flip off his bike, crashed. His shoulder was kind of sore, skinned his elbow. And I was thinking, man, if that happened to me, I'd be like out of work for 6 months. I'd be host, you know.
Well, I'll tell you, cycling is a dangerous profession for dentists. I have too many dentist friends who have had really close calls with death. In fact, I've got a really good doctor that I work with, and also a neighbor of mine who was coming down the canyon the other night and got hit by a car head on. Car drifted over into his lane, hit him head on. He broke his neck, several ribs, and lucky to be alive. He's amazingly, now it's been about a month, I think, since it's happened, and he's starting to walk a little bit and trying to get back into his practice to get going. But yeah, scary. You just gotta be so careful.
Yeah, that's it is. I mean, you think about, you know, even the you know, that crash that happened in the Tour de France, you know.
Yeah.
This year is like, you know, that guy, some of those guys might be coming to see you, you know. I was just thinking, man, how many teeth and wrists and elbows were just could be really badly hurt. So yeah. Well, this is cool. Well, thanks for joining us. You know, we're kind of talking you know, with practice owners about really adding value to their patients. I think a lot of us can fall into the insurance trap, and especially with more corporate practices. You know, corporate practices are kind of known for really, you know, squeezing every drop of insurance benefit. And whether that's right or wrong isn't so much we're debating. It's just more of, in a private practice, I think the philosophy is generally more about the patient. And you have a lot of experience in, DSO, your own practice, and then also, public health and educational dentistry and stuff. So I think you had a really good perspective. And, with a lot of the procedures you do, Perio, you may do a narrower range of codes than maybe a general dental office does, because you're focused more in those areas. But do you think,
Yeah.
do you think things have kind of come full circle? When I graduated dental school, it seemed like everything was kind of like, hey, if a tooth's even questionable, we're going to take it out and put implants in. I know in my office, I've kind of come around where it's like, hey, implants aren't always the best option. And we know a lot of people don't maintain them and stuff, but even just people who naturally have receding gums and stuff, you've always been really conservative that way. In fact, Dan did some gum grafts for me, which turned out great, right? I could have taken mine out and, got some implants or some dentures or something, but I didn't. So what do you think?
Well,
What do you see on the,
Yeah.
forefront of, saving, removing teeth, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I'll tell you that my experience has been that I think that we are sometimes a little too quick to take teeth out. And I'm actually surprised as I go around and lecture to groups, and I've got a couple of study clubs that I'm involved in. As I sit down and talk, I think that people, and maybe it's a disservice done in the education system, but dentists aren't always aware of what we can do to save teeth or improve the health of teeth. We see a 9 millimeter pocket and some slight mobility, and we think that the tooth can't be saved, for example. That's a real raw example, and I'm oversimplifying it, but there really are some great things that we can do to save teeth. Now, it's not always the case, but in fact, I just saw a patient today for her final evaluation, tooth number 9, for example. She had some pathologic migration of it. She had 9 millimeter probing depths on a couple of surfaces. And we were kind of on the fence. Can we save this tooth? Does it need to go? And after consulting with her, we decided we were going to try to save it and do some regeneration. So sent her back to her dentist and asked the dentist to stabilize the tooth. So he bonded some wire on the palatal surfaces of those maxillary anterior teeth, really stabilized that tooth well. And then I went in and did some regenerative therapy. And here we are 6 months later, I've got 3 millimeter probing depths around this tooth. And we've been able to save it and create a situation where with good oral hygiene, she's going to hang on to this tooth for several more years, if not more. So nothing we do is permanent, nothing lasts forever, but yeah, there's a lot we can do to save teeth. And so I am careful. I'll admit I'm probably one of the more conservative people when it comes to whether or not we're going to pull teeth versus implants, and even implants versus bridges and things like that. I think that there's a lot we have in our armamentarium that we can use, and we've got to make sure we exhaust all those options.
Yeah. Well, kind of tell me or walk us through, if when you're having that conversation with a patient, how much does, insurance or benefits factor into, when you're presenting that treatment? Like, at what point would you bring that in, or you just base it on the patient's needs?
I have never so I never bring up insurance with a patient. It's never part of our conversation. It never has been part of the conversation. And I don't ever make a decision or present an option to a patient based on their insurance. In fact, I like to not even know. I don't even know most of the time whether or not my patient has dental insurance. And that makes it really easy for me to not let that influence what I tell them or what I recommend. So my staff knows, the people who do the intake and get the insurance card from the patient, they know. but I don't ever look at that before I meet with the patient. So I would say it has absolutely zero influence. And I I would just say, just going off on a tangent here, that several years ago, I was at our local annual dental convention, and they threw out the challenge. Maybe you were there and heard that as well, but they said, find those insurance plans that are hurting your office, that are less profitable for your office, and get rid of them. Make the goal to get rid of them. And I kind of took that to heart. And over a 2-year period, I'm not on very many plans. I'm on just two plans now. But I got rid of 2 plans over about an 18-month period, because they weren't doing anything for me. They don't influence my decision-making process. And I was amazed that the number of patients that stayed with us, number of patients that continued to seek treatment. We were bracing ourselves for a little bit of a dip in our schedule and how busy we were, but it just never happened.
So would you say, I mean, like, generally speaking, sounds like it didn't affect your bottom line a whole lot, or not that you could notice?
Not, in fact, the exact opposite. Our office has just continued to grow, and I think that's because of the relationships that we build with our patients and the relationships that we build with the referring offices. That's one thing I always try to keep in mind whenever a patient sits down in my chair, is I'm not just treating the patient, but I'm treating the doctor that is associated with that patient. And so if I keep that in my mind, it sure helps me make good decisions and stay out of trouble.
Yeah, well, I think that's pretty cool. So would you say, I mean, typically you would present the treatment and then you turn it over to your financial team to kind of go through the bells and whistles of what would cover or not, but you're personally not having that discussion with patients, right?
I never have that conversation. Because they inevitably are going to start asking me questions that I don't know the answers to.
Right.
And I have people that I pay in my office to know that and to deal with that. And it's good to have somebody separated from the actual provider position, presenting that information to the patient.
Right.
I think having a third party who is my staff member have that conversation is critical to the success of the whole program and our whole system.
Do you
Go
give your patients kind of a ballpark cost generally, or do you leave everything to the treatment coordinator and everything?
I leave everything to them.
Cool.
Boy, it's a rare moment when I might throw out a number for a patient, and usually it's because it's a neighbor of mine or a friend of somebody, and I'll throw some numbers around. But no, I don't like to have financial conversations with patients, and never have. I don't think that's very professional, in my opinion. From a doctor standpoint, that's not my role.
Well, and I really like how you keep that separate, because I mean, I think even, we know medicine's a little bit different because, dentistry, it's really not insurance at all. It's like, 1,000 or 1,500 benefit, which, if you have it, great, probably want to use it. I probably would too, but I personally wouldn't let it dictate, where I sought treatment. Medical may be different if you're having a 5 or 6 figure operation. You may want to pay attention, but I've just seen medical providers where it's like, oh yeah, you probably should have this done, but insurance won't cover it. And I remember a couple years ago, there was a guy talking, and he's a insurance negotiator, and he was saying how his son was born, and he had this heart defect, and in comes the financial guy at the hospital, and he's got this book with stacks of pages, and it's all these consent forms, and he's like, what is this? And they said, well, your insurance only covers a general surgeon to do this surgery on your son, right? So he because he's in the industry, he knew, and he looked it up, and it was like 85% chance of death in children that had this surgery done by a general surgeon, whereas if a, pediatric, cardiothoracic, someone with, 85 years of school and all these things, if they did it, it was like a 92% success rate or something. And so he said, well, hey, can I even choose this? And he was bringing up some of the newer insurance laws that allow patients to choose, to upgrade or pay the difference if they want to. But the point was, he wasn't even offered that, and I think a lot of practices, we get sucked into that trap, where, and it may not be the doctors, but it could be our person at the front desk who could fall into that trap of, oh, you probably do want to do this because insurance covers it. Or, oh, if you don't have insurance, you can do that. And, I actually called with my team a couple weeks ago. We just called an office and played patient. And I won't say the name of the office. And we didn't make an appointment, and, it didn't matter, but it was just like, hey, I need a root canal. How much does that cost? And the woman on the phone pretty much told me that if I didn't have insurance, I shouldn't get a root canal. And I was thinking, man, if she was answering the phone at my office, I'd be tearing my hair out, because what the cost is one thing, but also, like, what if that's pushing a patient away from treatment, and now they end up in the ER and get a bill for $5,000 only to get referred back to the dentist that could have been prevented, So I see that happening a lot. And I think, that's why I asked you to come on and do this, because, you've struck me someone who really just has the patient in mind. And, you offer implants and perio, which is really cool, because you don't just see a nail and have a hammer, you're like, hey, we can go left or we can go right. And we have that option.
I've never considered myself, the big implant guy. I love doing implants as much as anybody, and we do a lot of implants, but I love balance. I love doing other procedures as well. I love soft tissue grafting. I love doing general perio. And so I try to market myself as the kind of the complete perio package, and
Cool.
not get too focused on one area. But what I wanted to share was that not too long ago, I was talking with another faculty member over at the university while we were working, and he said, I'd love to refer more patients to you and work with you more, but you're just not on the insurance plans that our office is on, and so the patients won't accept treatment. And I started thinking, at first my thought process is, oh, shoot, do I need to get on some more insurance plans to work more with this guy? But then I thought, no, it's just not worth it. I'm as busy as I want to be, as busy as I can be. And I just don't want to have my fees dictated by a third party like that. I'd rather be a little less busy and be fairly compensated than in the middle of that rat race, if you will. So, and you probably get patients in your office too that say, I can only have 2 cleanings a year because that's all my insurance will cover. And that's a great opportunity to have a conversation with someone and say, your insurance doesn't dictate what you can and can't do. They'll dictate how much they'll cover, but really it's between you and I to dictate what needs to be done, not a third party insurance company like that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too, where that came from. It was like a Pepsodent commercial during one of the world wars, where it was like the guy came up with this jingle, and it was like, brush your teeth twice a day with Pepsodent and see your dentist twice a year for checkups, and it's like, that was thrown out there as a marketing line. And then that got adopted into, because before that, like, nobody was getting preventative, just like something hurt. I think they said before World War I or II, it was like 8% of households had toothpaste, and so you can imagine just the bad breath. And so they come up with this jingle, and it's like, people adopt it. And to me, it's like, we try to be insurance friendly in our office, but certainly there are a lot of plans, most plans we don't take. We can still be friendly to it, even if we can't, someone listening to this, even if you don't take it or even won't bill it, at least give your patient a receipt where they could submit it on their own or something. I think there are other ways that you can still show, hey, look, you're welcome to use this benefit, but we're doing what's in your best interest. And I think, a lot of offices will say, oh, I charge this much for a crown or an implant or a soft tissue graft. But then you look at their chart and they never actually charge that much because they write off every single one of them to adjust down. And then you start compromising care, because then you start thinking, well, could I get a cheaper or lower quality biologic or cement?
Oh
You
yeah.
know, and so good for you, you didn't compromise what you feel is right. And I think Perio is unique too, because we talk a lot about practices having membership plans or some kind of plan for their patients, because for us it's really been transformative, where we have a solution for them, because a lot of people say, oh, I don't have insurance, so I can't come get my teeth clean, and to us, to you and I, it's like, that's like saying, I don't have medical insurance, so I can't exercise or eat healthy. It just seems crazy. But people say that, and so when you have a plan, some kind of program or things, and Perio is unique because unlike most other specialists, you have a lot of patients on recare, compared to
Yes.
maybe an oral surgeon or even an orthodontist. They see them for a couple of years and then see you later, have a good life, kind of thing. And
Right.
I was talking to another practice owner recently, and he was kind of talking about how he'd done so many all on fours and stuff. And he was kind of dialing those back and trying to save more teeth and maybe do some removables and stuff like that. And I was kind of like, yeah, why do you think some of these big implant centers drop those in, but they don't provide any service for them or anything? Not that they're all bad, but it's like they know that, like you said, nothing lasts forever.
Yep.
And this young woman you were talking about earlier, you said she was pretty young, right? The one you were doing the tooth number 9 on, right?
She was mid, 50s,
Right.
probably.
But if she's going to live 30 more years, you could always do an implant in 15 years if
Absolutely.
it came
The
to us
option's
then,
always there.
you know?
And I find most patients, even if it's not a perfect solution, if it's a solution that might get them another couple of years, they love that. They're grateful for that, to be able to put that off. And so yeah, just you be upfront and be honest with them. Say, I can give you this, and it might last a few years. But that's a few more years you've got with your natural teeth. And it's interesting, as I've gone to the annual Perio meetings every year. All on 4 concept was so big for so long. We talked about it all the time. It's interesting now, as I just looked at our program for this upcoming year, that you don't see a whole lot about it. It's not as emphasized as it was. And I think it's a great option. I think it can work really well, but it's not a perfect option. And I run into a lot of students that are like, I just want to do all on 4s my whole career, and I'm going to make big money doing that. Well, there's a lot of follow-up required with all on 4s. You don't just, like you said, those centers that just place them and then there's no recare. There's a reason for that, because the follow-up is difficult. It's labor intensive, and you're married to that person for a long time.
Right. Yeah. It's just another tool in the tool belt. So it's an option,
Exactly.
but it's not, and that's why I think it's great patients we've sent to you, is you give them options and talk through it. Some of these things are done in phases, but to me is like, when someone comes, a lot of times they'll say, hey, I want to get implants, and they may have no idea what the cost or the time is like. It's good to have an option, anything from a bridge down to a flipper, just so that, because some people aren't ready. And I think too many offices, they don't have any kind of program or plan or other option. They just have, one key to fit one lock, and then you lose that patient because they might come back in 3 years and want to get all that done, but you break that trust when all you do is try to shove this 20 or 40,000
One idea. Yeah, you've got to give options. Yep.
So what would you say? I mean, for practice owners, either maybe some of these procedures they're doing in their office, maybe some they're working with a periodontist. What are ways that have been helpful for you to help patients see the value in what you're doing, right? Because, you know, there's a cost to get some soft tissue grafting done, or an implant, or a regenerative, you know, biologic, those kind of things. What are things that work well for you? And just having that conversation with the patient where they can see the value in what you have to offer.
I think that going back to what I've said a few times now is just being upfront and honest with the patient. That I'll often say, I can't offer you a perfect solution, but under these circumstances, I can tell you this is the best solution. If you were my mother or my wife, this is what I would recommend for you. And then I let it hang. I think sometimes we get caught up in talking too much and trying too hard to explain why we recommend something or don't recommend something else. I feel like I've mastered the art of saying in just a few short sentences, this is what you need, and then I stop and let them just digest it and let them say the next words. And more often than not, the response is, well, if you think that's what's best, I'm going to go with that. So I think being able to stop talking and just listen is the best thing you can do.
Right. Do you have any kind of like, you know, obviously you have some recare for like your perio patients, or maintenance. If someone comes in and, you know, maybe they've got loose teeth or need a graft or something like that, what's your opinion on how much follow-up you do with someone versus how much is like breathing down their neck and pasturing them, you know, as far as maybe they leave the office, they got to go home and talk to their wife or husband, kind of make a plan. What's that look like for you, if you wouldn't mind sharing?
Right. So let's say I've recommended some soft tissue grafting for them. They come back at their next high perio maintenance appointment and they haven't scheduled. Usually my hygienist is the one who will mention it to them, that, you remember Dr. Thunell recommended this, and the patient says yes, and I'm not interested right now, or yes, I've been meaning to schedule that. And when she comes to get me for the exam, she'll let me know what their response has been to her during that conversation. So then I can go in a little better prepared. So if it's, yes, I'm not interested right now, then I can just take a look and say, you know, Mr. So-and-so, we still recommend this, and, you know, our recommendation hasn't changed. And when you're ready to schedule, you let us know. Or if it's, yeah, I've been meaning to set that up, but I haven't done it yet. That kind of person, it's like, okay, well, let's get the patient care coordinator into the operatory here, and let's have her help you set that up and get the ball rolling. So sometimes they just need a little push in that direction, but you got to make sure they're in the right mindset first before you give them that little push.
Right. Yeah. We like to say in my office, you know, if a patient openly admits like, hey, I'm not ready to do this, we're not going to put it in their active follow-up where it's like we're hounding them about it, because they've got to be ready. People are more informed now than ever, even though they're often wrongfully informed or misled because of all the, you know, bogus websites. And, you know, if you read anything on WebMD, it's like you might have gum disease or cancer. You know, everything's
Right.
like, got that in there. You know, which may or may not be true, but I think people come into your office and they already have an idea of what they want from the visit. And I think you have an advantage in perio over most specialties, where you get that follow-up to see your patient again in 3, 4, 6 months. So you can keep that kind of on the back burner until they're ready.
Yep. I don't breathe down their necks. I'll skip a few maintenance appointments and not even bring it up before I say something to them again, just because I think that's a really fast way to lose a patient. You start trying to tell them to do something they don't want to do, they're going to be out the door finding somebody else. But again, in my opinion, it all comes back to relationships, and the relationships start with that first point of contact in your office, your office manager, or whoever's at the front desk, building a relationship with the patient, your hygienist building a relationship with that patient, and then you building a relationship with that patient. And when all of you have that relationship with them, those conversations are easy to have. It's like you're talking to your neighbor. And I would say that, I don't know if it's half or if it's 3/4 of my patients, they're friends to me. These are people that I know their life stories, they know mine. And when you have that kind of relationship, the recommendations and the treatment that needs to be done, that's really easy. It just happens.
Well, I think that's great. The saying we kind of, came up with in my office is, most practices, they get a patient to do treatment on. And we've kind of flipped that on its head and said, we offer treatment in order to gain patients or relationships, so it's like we have a service we provide to get people who can be lifelong friends and patients, and we can really help them out, even if it's referring them to the medical provider to go get blood work because they look like they're diabetic or maybe have sleep apnea or other things we find. We look at it as, we can provide an emergency service or crown someone's teeth so that we can, become a lifelong
Build a
provider for
relationship.
this patient, rather than, hey, how many new patients can we slam in this month and how much treatment can we squeeze from them and milk out of their insurance or their HSA, because people know, are more informed than ever, and they kind of know, they can feel when they're being railroaded a little bit. And I've always liked your style with that. So
Your best uh, litmus test for whether or not you're building relationships with your patients is if your patients are becoming some of your best referral sources.
right.
If your patients are becoming your best referral sources, then you know you're doing something right.
Absolutely. Right. I think we look at, the retention rate of our patients and the referrals as the two indicators of if the practice is doing well, because they're coming back and they can't help but tell people about you because they just felt good in your office. They felt cared for. They have a good experience. It's not like, you can tell your patients, hey, go tell everybody about us. Most people aren't going to do that, but it just naturally comes up in their conversation because
Right.
they appreciated that you were honest with them. And they're like, hey, a lot of healthcare providers I see didn't take the time that Dr. Thunell did and really got to know me and talk to me. And that really makes you stand out. So that's pretty cool. So, well, hey, we're just about out of time here, but I think we got lots of gold nuggets from you here, and just, getting a sense for your style and how you talk to people. For anyone watching or listening to this, how could they, maybe find out more about what you do if they had a Perio question or a question about running a practice or some CE, anything like that you want to share that might be helpful?
Yes. So I do have, for those who are members of the Utah Dental Association, at least, you can go onto the UDA website, and I have a recorded CE lecture on there on soft tissue grafting. But I'm more than happy to talk and share ideas with anybody. So feel free to reach out to me via email. My email address is drt@wasatchperio.com, and would love to hear from anybody and share ideas and learn from you.
And some ideas about cycling too. Like me, I just figured out why I have so much drag. It's because it's the mop of hair I got to thin out. I got to get with the Dan Thunell haircut. So
Yeah, if you want to go riding and you live in the area, hit me up.
yeah,
Always looking for someone to ride with.
cool. Yeah, and I saw one of my friends is in one of the local cycling groups, and I saw Wasatch Perio on the back. So I was like, hey, do you know this guy? Like, this name you're driving around town with? He's a good guy.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, well, cool. Hey, always great talking to you. Glad you're here, you're doing well, and appreciate all you do to help our patients and being a great resource for us. So thanks again.
Yeah. Thank you, Tyler. Thanks for inviting me to be part of this.
Yeah, awesome. We'll do it again.
Okay.
All right, thanks.